Well, welcome to the podcast. Yes, I'm your host, Rob Elliott, and I've really gone far this time. Not really. As you know, I'm based in Sydney, Australia, and I've just gone down the south coast and I have found the most amazing lady who has the most fantastic business that we're going to hear all about today. She's a creative, she's a business owner, she's a mum, and she absolutely rocks at what she does. Welcome to the podcast, Tara Solberg. How are you?
Good, thanks, Rob. How are you?
I'm absolutely fantastic. Now, especially for our international guests, can you explain to them where you live?
So I live on the south coast of New South Wales in Australia. So I grew up in Jervis Bay, which is one of the most beautiful places in the world, I
It
think.
is.
But then my husband Danny and I now live down in Manana, which is a little bit further south. But
Yeah.
Danny's a surfer, so we have to be somewhere that he can see the surf.
Nothing wrong with that.
And Jervis Bay was probably driving him a little bit crazy. So yeah, that's where we are.
So is that it down where you live there now? Is that where you actually grew up?
In Manana, no. So I grew up in Vincentia, which was part of Jervis Bay, so which is about half an hour north of where I am now. So very close.
Very close. So, but I was looking. It says you've got a university degree there. Apart from surfing and laying on the beach down there, where did you get a degree?
So I went to COFA, which is the College of Fine Arts, and part of the University of New South Wales in Sydney, and the campus that I was located on was in Paddington on Oxford Street, so right in the heart of the action.
Yes.
And while I was up there, I actually moved in with my auntie and uncle who lived in Ingleburn, which is sort of near Campbelltown.
Yes.
For the first year and commuted every day, obviously. But then I met up with some amazing, beautiful friends at uni and moved in to an apartment with them in Coogee.
Party time.
Sydney. Yeah. Also, it was closer to the beach and I was really missing the beach and, having that opportunity to walk along the beach, to think about things and, breathe in the fresh air and that side of things. I feel that I really missed that.
So two very important questions before we get into your business side and all that.
Sure.
What was more important at uni, the social side or the study?
Well, probably the study, but only because I always felt a little bit ripped off being at the College of Fine Arts campus because it didn't have a uni bar.
They knew better.
Yeah, the uni bar was over at main campus. I'm like, what are these stories that everyone tells you about how uni is like the best years of your life and that sort of thing. So it didn't really happen at uni, but I guess the living in Coogee part, that was a pretty good party time.
So what was your favorite subject when you were at uni?
Oh, good question. I actually liked, there was one called presentation techniques. And so we were involved a lot in, the delivery of your projects and how you came up with creative concepts and, all of basically the idea behind the idea. I loved that topic. That was probably one of the more memorable ones.
So last question before we get into your journey, where did you meet your husband?
Well, we actually grew up in the same area, in the local area, but he's actually 10 years older than me. And we'd sort of seen each other around, but never really kind of interacted. And then I met him officially on my first job interview.
You're kidding.
No.
I'm not asking how you got the job.
Yeah, so he hired me.
So what was your first job?
Well, my first full-time job was working as a graphic designer with the surf company Ocean and Earth, which was located down in Sussex Inlet. So I completed my university degree, or I was 3 years into it with an extra year to go. And then I got the job at Ocean and Earth. And so I was, that was my dream, to be able to move back home. I really wanted to get back to the South Coast.
How lucky.
And I fortunately found this, which was a dream job at the time. So got the job and moved back home. And Danny was my boss.
So if I'll put Danny to the side now, we'll come back
Yeah.
to him later.
He'll come back in later.
Yeah, I'm sure. Your first job, you're straight out of uni. What was your biggest challenge back then?
First entering into the workforce, I guess it was obviously coming into that job, I didn't have a lot of experience. I had
Mm,
obviously all of the everything that university had taught me, but that was the more creative, kind of conceptual side. But
yeah,
the practical side, I guess I was really lacking in. But that's something that I learnt really quickly because obviously you have to, you kind of get thrown into
yeah,
the deep end when you go into a job. So that was a pretty big challenge. But at the same time, because had I still had a year to go, I had 6 months of that was considered professional experience, and then
right.
6 months was major project. So I was trying to complete my university degree while working full time.
Yep,
So that was a challenge I had to drive. Well, I was fortunate. My boss was really, I guess, he was really helpful in terms of
yeah,
allowing me to do that. And I was traveling up to Sydney 2 days a week to finish off my uni courses, and
yeah.
then came back to work. And I still had the same amount of work as everybody. I just had to squeeze it all in. So
Yeah, it's something I've noticed when I speak to and interview creatives. Focus can move very quickly.
yeah.
So for someone to commit herself to be able to do that is amazing.
Yeah, no. Well, it was definitely a dream job for me at the time. And I know even being at uni and being in a creative position,
Mm,
I always wondered, how am I going to move back to the South Coast? Like, how am I going to get back there? Because I thought that I would be stuck living in a city,
yeah,
as a designer, because there aren't a lot of design jobs, down the South Coast or in these
no.
regional areas. So when that came up, it was almost like it was meant to be and the dream come true, really.
I mean, you what? Where you were there, you were a good 3 hours out of the CBD.
Yeah.
There's no high rise. It's very chilled.
Yes, very
Uh,
relaxed, very sleepy.
yeah. So how long did you stay there? Did you move that straight into your own business or did you have a couple of jobs after that?
No, so I was at Ocean and Earth for 5 years,
Yep.
and then it was after that that we started our business. So
So
straight after that.
what drove you? What was you're standing there, you've got a safe job,
Yeah.
you've got money in an area that doesn't have a lot of employment, let's be honest.
Yeah.
And you decided first, how did you make that decision to say, right, I'm quitting, we're going to business for ourselves, I'm jumping off the cliff, I don't have a parachute, but
Yeah.
I'm going to fly. How did you get to that?
I was starting to feel a little discontent in the job that I
Yeah,
was in. Like, it's
yeah,
not that I didn't love my job. I actually loved what I was doing. I loved the people that I work with and who I
yeah.
worked for. It was more just the company itself was going through a transitional phase in terms of it was growing and they were bringing in investors, and
Mm,
it was a lot more formal.
corporatized.
Yeah, and everything, it kind of lost its culture a little bit, and it was becoming a little bit more toxic with
Yep.
everything going on.
Yes.
And I just started feeling a bit sort of limited in terms of what I could do and where we were going and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I had lots of ideas, and for me, as I guess a creative person, being told that I have to put palm trees and Hawaiian flowers on everything was kind
Oh
of going against
no.
the grain.
No.
And I was actually the ladies designer so I designed the whole ladies range. So that was all of the clothing, all of the fashion accessories, all of the surf hardware, all of the
Mm,
advertising, everything. And Danny was the men's designer. He did all of the men's side of things. And so I was kind of, one of the few women who was involved in the business managing the women's brand. But whenever I kind of had ideas for that, it was always, pushed to the side a little bit. So I
yes.
sort of thought, I just need to run my own business so that I can implement my ideas and, have a go and work it out for myself. So it was sort of at that stage where we made the decision that we needed to start looking around because we just felt that we had more to offer.
So did you go straight into clothing, was it? And you were selling it out of a combi next to the beach, or what were you doing?
No. So part of the job with Ocean and Earth, and everyone's probably thinking, why did you leave? But
Yeah.
we traveled the world twice a year on buying trips.
Yes.
So the purpose of those trips was to forecast trends, to
Yeah.
buy samples, leave with an empty suitcase, come home with a full one, basically. So
Yeah.
we'd buy a bunch of samples. We might even buy a pair of jeans because we like the shape of the pocket, or we
Yeah.
like stitching or something like that, something that we could apply to our range
Yes.
of clothing designs. So we traveled the world twice a year, and we, visited places. We started off in Honolulu, went to LA, London, somewhere else in Europe, like Barcelona or Paris or somewhere like that, and then on to Tokyo. So it was such an amazing experience. But sorry, I'm just trying to remember where I was going with that. So we had that, and then on one of those trips, we walked into it, or I'd always drag Danny into the homewares stores,
Yes.
because I always loved homewares and I loved furniture and that side of things. So I dragged him into the stores, and there was one in particular in Melrose in California that it was like a giant showroom of one-of-a-kind pieces from India, China, Africa, all over the globe. And the owner was actually sitting at his desk up the back of the showroom, and Danny was kind of looking at him like, just, wishing that was him. And he sort of said, I want to be him. And at that moment, we kind of started building on that idea that we could start a business based on travel, based on, our experiences and what we love.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the defining moment.
So what was your first business?
Sorry, that was the question. It was a furniture and homewares business that we started.
And was that online, or was it in a cheap shop somewhere, or how did you start?
So we opened our first retail store in Huskisson in Jervis Bay,
Yes.
New South Wales, and we opened that in 2009. And from there, we've opened more stores along the way.
Yeah.
But so first store was furniture and homeware store in Huskisson.
Yeah, because Huskinson, for people who don't know it, is basically a fishing village.
Yeah, pretty much.
And it goes to sleep during winter, wakes up for 6 months of the year, then goes back to sleep.
Yeah.
And unless you're selling things to do with fishing, about fishing, or drinks to talk about fishing,
or whale watching or something,
or wow, there's not much else to do there. These days it's very, very different, but back in those days it would have been dirty. So you've started your first business, you've opened up, you put your shackle out.
Yeah.
What was your biggest challenge? Because now you've got a 7-figure business, you've got multiple stores, you've got staff. And I can honestly say to anyone who is in New South Wales or on tour for holidays, I will put the links up to where this lady's shops are. They are amazing. And for our overseas guests, they are full of one-off, brilliant homewares that you won't see in many other stores. So, and maybe in your high-end stores in Europe or America. And so I'm trying to paint a picture for people, which is totally against where you opened.
Yeah,
so
it is.
Tell us the journey about, you started with one. What was your biggest challenge, and how did you get to grow?
Well, I guess, coming from the backgrounds that we came from, we were both graphic designers. A lot of the times we've often said that we wish the other one was an accountant or something like that. It's a little more balanced, but no, we're both creative. We're both designers.
Wow.
So we'd never obviously had a business of our own before. So we didn't really know the ins and outs of starting a business. We had no idea what we were doing, even, how to price things, nothing really. But we actually had a friend who'd owned a homeware store, and she actually guided us during that initial period.
So a mentor was so important.
Yeah, that was a huge advantage, especially during that time. And, when you're so uncertain going into something as to, how to do things. And when I say how to do things, I mean just the simple things, just little things like how much to order and, how to kind of split that up through your budget and all of that kind of thing. She kind of guided us through that. But, using her as a stepping stone, because obviously we had our bigger ideas, but for her to just teach us those basics was such a huge step for us to then be able to, you know, jump to the next level.
Did you make any good mistakes in the early
Oh, we've made plenty.
Any you care to share?
Yeah, of course. There's been a lot of mistakes. So, you know, even just learning the challenges of importing. So we import a lot of our own products because obviously to maintain that point of difference and to carry our own range. But a lot of mistakes with importing. Even, you know, we actually imported our very first container from Indonesia before we opened our store, because when we opened the store, we wanted it to be different. We wanted something in there that people hadn't really seen a lot of. And that container arrived, and I think half of the products were just covered in mold. So kind of, you know, that it all worked out in the end, okay. But, you know, just things like that you don't really think of or that you don't factor in. And even the delivery of the containers was a huge kind of ordeal. And then just things like business structure, like making sure that your business is structured correctly, whether you're a partnership or a company, and making sure it's set up correctly for tax purposes. Like there's just so many like little lessons along the way, making sure things are trademarked and all of that. It was just, it's been a journey.
Have you ever opened the box and said to Danny, why did we order this?
Yeah. Actually, most of the time it's like, why did you order this?
Oh, the poor guy.
No, he's funny. We always joke because when we were allowed to travel, because we traveled a lot, obviously, to import a lot of our pieces, but when we were able to travel, we'd take it in turns because we've got our young children. So we've got a 4-year-old and a 7-year-old. So one of us would stay at home with the kids and the other would travel. And whenever he'd be over there, so we talk a lot on FaceTime or you know, Zoom and that sort of thing. And when he's over there and he's showing me like these pictures, or what do you think of this, or what do you think of that, because we confirm everything each night, I look at the pictures and I'm like, what is that? And he's always been known for choosing these kind of weird and wonderful things.
But you want to be unique.
Oh, I know, it's definitely unique. You can ask any of the staff and you know, any of the team about his choices, but no, it's all good. We're pretty good. We're on the same page most of the time. So that's
a couple of questions. How do you choose what you range in a store? Now you've got 3 stores, you've got staff, you've got bills to pay.
Yeah.
Customers are pretty black and white. They either like it or they don't.
Yeah.
So what do you take into account when you're picking a new product, and what do you look for?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. A lot of our range, we have to like it or we have to love it, obviously. We're not the type of people to just go and buy something because we think it's going to sell, even though, you know, it goes against our grain in terms of the look or that sort of thing. We try to have a really good mix of product. So we have like obviously the one of a kind pieces and the more high-end pieces and expensive pieces, but then we have really accessible everyday pieces that, you know, we want to be able to offer the experience where if somebody, you know, walks into our stores and loves the store and just wants, you know, to take home a piece of it or a memory or something, they can walk away with something, whether it be a bar of soap or a candle or something like that. There's something for everybody in there. So we consider all price points, but also have that, I guess, those higher end pieces as well.
I'm just going to pick you up on something there. When I'm out walking in a shopping centre with my wife, being a sales and business coach myself, I look at all the stores. And I look at the fit outs. And they don't have to be expensive. And I look at how they're set out and what they've got. And some are clearly set up as a great shopping experience. And some are stuck in the 80s and 90s. And I mean, that's been brutally true. So how important these days, where people normally research and know what they want, is it that when they come into a store, they have more than just a transaction, it's more about an experience?
Oh, that's what our business is all about. And that's basically the foundation that we have built upon.
Mm,
I believe that the experience is, the most important thing. And that's one of the things that we actually learnt from those buying trips
yeah,
overseas, like looking at stores like Anthropology in America, like they just
yeah,
offer the most amazing consuming, engaging experience. And that's what we really wanted to portray.
yes.
So our stores are all about experience. So, even some of it, it might be kind of subconscious that you're not
Mm,
kind of directly noticing, but, it's all about the way that they smell, the music that you hear when you walk in,
mm,
like the touch and feel, the different textures, the different
yep.
visual elements, all of that sort of thing, all of the different layers. It's all about engagement.
Now, I know in creatives, they're very passionate about what they do.
Yeah.
And they look at a product and they don't look at the price. They look, oh, that looks amazing. But I'm listening to you now. How does a lady like you get that passion that it's for the people listening just on their radio in their car, that if you could take the time to go onto YouTube and check this lady out, you can see her face light up. She absolutely loves what she does. How do you transfer that passion that you and Danny have to your staff?
Oh, I think just by talking about it. So we're really involved with our staff, and we're always kind of sharing our knowledge and also our experiences with them.
Mm.
So we're always telling them stories. They probably know a lot more about us than what they should.
So
But
it's a bit of a family atmosphere.
Oh, it's definitely a family atmosphere.
Yeah,
So yeah, I think that's really important, just having that, I guess, engagement with them as well.
yeah,
We tell them what we love, why we love it, why we bought things, and that's always really clearly communicated. And yeah, I think that's a big part of it. And they certainly know when Danny buys something odd, what I'm going to think of it. And yeah, they pretty much know what each of us is going to say before we even say it. So I think we've got a pretty good relationship there.
Now, retail is notoriously a hard business to be in,
Yes.
and there are a lot of casualties along the way. But your business is gone the opposite way.
Yeah.
It's succeeding where others aren't. If you look at other similar businesses, without naming them, where do you think businesses, especially retail, go wrong today?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, because I think about that all the time.
Mm,
I actually have started an online course where I'm teaching others how to start a retail business. And one
fantastic.
of the things that I speak about in that course is, number one, the merchandising and
Mm,
and I guess the product sourcing. So our stores work really well, I believe, because we have faith in the product that we buy
mm,
and in the way that we merchandise it. So, coasters is a good example. And because we actually wholesale as well, so we sell to other retail stores. So that
yeah,
gives us a really good insight into how other retailers think as well. And it's always interesting at trade fairs, when we're selling at trade fairs and taking orders from certain customers, how they order. And one of the things that I've noticed when I talk about coasters is, somebody will come through and they'll buy four coasters, whereas I'll kind of come through and I'll buy like 36 or something like
yeah,
that, because I've got confidence in that product. But not just because of that, but also if you have four coasters, you can't tell how that product sells. Like one person could come in and buy all four of those coasters.
mm,
Whereas if you've got 36 of them and then you sell all 36, or you see people buying them in groups of fours or sixes or whatever
yeah,
it might be, you've got a much better idea of how that product performs.
yeah,
And also the way that you display them, it's such, so much more strength in the story of how you're displaying those, because they're taking up more space, they're more noticeable, they don't look like they're the last few left on the shelf.
yeah. I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, gives the product confidence, and therefore in turn shows the customer that that's a worthwhile product to buy.
Now, I did notice that you have invested it looks like a lot of time and a lot of money in a quality website.
Yes.
Where you see other people just put up it looks like a generic website. Was that a choice you and Danny made to take the time and get it right?
Yes. Well, we've built the website ourselves.
Wow.
But we do spend a lot of time on it, and we have somebody dedicated to that now. Actually, a team of people, really. So,
Yeah.
but the website was actually really important. And when we first started out, obviously, we started 12 years ago, so there wasn't a lot of access to, the kind of platforms where you do build these things yourself.
Yeah.
And I remember, paying somebody $5,000 it was to start to build our first website. And it just was never, what we wanted, and it didn't work the way that it should have, and all of that sort of thing. And I remember the day that we switched over to the new website that we built ourselves, and just the increase in sales just based on that was amazing, really. Like overnight, we were all of a sudden getting online orders that we'd never really received before, without actually having changed anything except for the overall layout of the website. That was really interesting.
So your store, and I'm speaking from experience, is a bit of a touchy-feely store.
Yeah.
And so how does that equate then to online sales? And with someone in retail now, how important is online sales, and what percentage do you think it should make up of your overall business?
I'm still a big believer in the bricks and mortar experience. As I was saying, I love that whole human connection and the way that you feel when you walk into a space. But obviously, online is really important, especially in today's world and everything that's going on. But what I always say to people who ask me these things is, having an online store, it's not just an extension of what you're doing, bricks and mortar wise. Like a lot of the time you can be deceived into thinking, oh, well, I've just got my online store, that'll make some money over here. I don't really have to do anything, blah, 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 blah. But it's actually quite expensive to make money in an online store, because it's like having a physical store. You're not paying rent, but you are paying money and investing money into advertising and the marketing and, all of your social media and everything. So there is still quite a large expense. I would say a larger expense in terms of running an online store as opposed to a bricks and mortar store.
So where do you see social media now? We were trying to come out of COVID. We're still trying. You're looking back now after you've been in business 10 years. Where do you see social media as part of the puzzle now?
Oh, it's extremely important, unfortunately. It's definitely important. Like, it's just, if you're not on social media, then people are going to forget about you. So it's just kind of one of those necessary things to have and to do and to maintain a good kind of flow with. Definitely important. Even more important, though, I think, is obviously, building up your own personal database in terms of, people's email addresses and that side of things, because that's your actual owned audience.
Yeah, you own that data,
Yeah. But social media does play a big role in marketing, which we're actually really fortunate to have as well, because it's a free marketing tool if you use it correctly. And it can actually, really push a lot of sales and business your way.
If you came across a young couple today that was saying, look, I want to do what you did.
Yeah.
I have never run a store. We're both creatives. Hubby likes to surf. But I just want to be in business myself.
Yeah.
What would you say to them? What's the best part? What best advice you would give someone wanting to start out?
Yeah. I would say that they need to be passionate about what they do. If you're not passionate, it's never going to work out as well as what you would like it to. Like, you really, really need to love what you do. And I just can't imagine, not loving what I do, and
Yeah.
it's what keeps us going, and it's what drives us to keep pushing forward and to keep growing the business. It's more because we love what we do rather than we're working on it as a business. It's
Yeah.
more, it's the enjoyment that we get out of it. So I would say to make sure, number one, that the passion is there, but also number two, you can have the passion, but you also have to have the planning. So you can't just dive into something because you love it and not have a plan.
So if you were down at Coogee Beach walking with Danny and the kids, and a young 19-year-old self came up,
Yeah.
what would you tell yourself?
That's a good question. I don't know. I don't think I would really have done anything differently. Like,
Yeah,
I'm
that's
pretty
great.
happy with the way that things have gone and the way that we've approached things. I would probably just say, to
Don't
be
marry your boss.
yeah, maybe. No. Probably just to be confident, like, and
Yeah,
we always have been to a degree, but I always believe in trusting your intuition and trust going with your gut. And a lot of the times, if something's felt wrong, it's been for a reason, like it hasn't
yeah,
been right. But no, I'm pretty happy with the way that things have run up until now, even, with all of the mistakes and everything. I
yeah.
think that's necessary for, paving the path to where we are now.
If I could give you two people to have a beer with, you sit down and you just to pick their brains,
Yeah.
who do you reckon it'd be? Because you've got
I
some
would,
great pubs down the south coast of Australia,
yeah.
so there's plenty of places.
I would love to sit down with Chip and Joanna Gaines.
Yeah.
So they've got a TV show in America called Fixer Upper, but they've got the most
Yes, I've
amazing
seen it.
business, Magnolia, and what they've created is phenomenal, and they're also really entertaining too. So I think it would be a fun conversation.
So what's the next 10 years going to look like for Tara and Danny?
Yeah,
What are
well,
you going to do? You're going to take on the world, or you're going to have a flagship store in Sydney, Melbourne, and Brisbane? What are you going to do?
I've always found that whenever we make plans, they always happen a lot sooner than what we planned for. So 10 years, I don't know if I can look that far down the tunnel.
That's okay. That's okay. It's only a number.
Yeah, I definitely would love to. We have the plan to open more stores.
Yeah.
We would like to focus on regional for a
Yeah.
while at least,
Yeah.
because that was kind of one of the reasons why we started our business in a regional area. We wanted to offer that shopping experience to people from regional areas, because a lot
Yeah.
of the times they miss out on that and you have to
Yeah.
go to the city or somewhere. So we would like to expand regionally, but we would also like to have like a really large flagship store or showroom or something in Sydney or one of the capital cities.
Yeah. That's
And
absolutely.
definitely expand our wholesale side and potentially work with developers and all of the property developers.
Yeah, no worries. Look, it has been an absolute hoot listening to you today.
Thank
I
you.
love it when I interview people who are just full of passion and love what they do. If someone wanted to find out a little bit more about your business or about your course, how do they find you?
Yeah, so you can visit our website at
Mm.
www.fewandfar.com.au.
Yes.
Our retail website. Our wholesale brand is indigolove.com.au.
Yes.
And anything for my online course related, you can jump onto my website, tarasolberg.com, and the course is called Trade Wins.
Absolutely awesome. Well, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule of husband, kids, and running the next multiple chain of stores that I'm sure we're going to see over the next few years.
Oh, thanks so much, Rob. It's really been a great chat and I've really enjoyed it. And thank you so much for the opportunity.
No problem at all. And everyone, as we always say at the end of our podcast, have a groovy day.